Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
One of the great stories from the local body elections was the injection of new life and vitality. I think everyone is absolutely chuffed that Sophie Handford is now a Kapiti Coast District Councillor. Let's find out if she is. Sophie Handford, good morning and welcome to you.
Kia ora, good morning.
Oh, lovely to talk to you, Sophie. Well, here it is. You're a very proud graduate of the wonderful Kapiti College, and you've organised seemingly thousands of kids to get out on the streets and make a point about climate. And here it is, at a very tender age, you're a Kapiti Coast District Councillor. What have you done? What have you done, Sophie?
It still shocks me when you say that, eh? Someone asked me before on the call, so what's your name and what's your title? And I was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, oh, you're a Kapiti Coast District Councillor. And it kind of, which I think will take a while to sink in. But I'm very excited and ready to serve the Paekakariki Raumati ward as best as I can and champion issues such as climate change.
Well, and you know, this is interesting, isn't it? Because I have been around a year or two, and I was in the Beehive at a time and working on the green side of politics, if you know what I mean, not for the Green Party, which didn't exist at that stage, but on the green side of politics, and it was really difficult to get any traction at all on environmental matters. And you know what? I think it's young people like you that have made the difference and have advanced the conversation. So that I thank you for, Sophie.
Oh, no, thank you. And the thing is, we're committed to continuing on in this fight with School Strike for Climate and getting as many young people as we can elected into positions where they can start to make change from the inside too. So it is very exciting, and I think we've seen a massive youth quake these elections with a lot of young people being elected. So we've got a great little support network already being set up. So I'm very excited to work alongside them as well as they continue to make change in their communities.
Sophie, a serious question. Are you afraid of the implications of climate change?
Oh, I'm really afraid. I'm afraid most days, to be honest. And I think the thing I'm most afraid of is that, we're not really realising the potential that the impacts will have and are already having on so many communities. And it's just, what scares me is that we've spent so long kind of with the status quo that we have now and not taking serious action on climate change. And it scares me that we'll just continue travelling along this easy road of sitting back and doing nothing, when really if we continue along this easy road, it's going to be very, very difficult in the next 10, 15 years to try and actually take action when the impacts are just going to cost us so much more. So I'm just scared that we'll kind of miss the boat, and I think that's why a lot of young people are trying to, get into these positions where they can be a part of making changes which will really hopefully safeguard the future of young people, because I'd love to, raise kids in Kapiti and bring my kids back to Kapiti if I have kids or when I have kids. But I want it to be a place that hasn't been absolutely ruined by the impacts of climate change, and I want to know that the community will be resilient to be able to deal with those effects of climate change as well. So I'm definitely scared, but I'm also hopeful that, I'll be able to bring a different perspective that might not have been in council so strongly in the past, and I'm hopeful that there are so many others across the country who will be able to do the same. So, I'm ready to kind of give it my best go. Well,
it's a lot of work to be done. I have to tell you, Sophie, I think the Kapiti Coast District Council are going to struggle to come to grips with some of the implications here. As a submitter to the KCDC a couple of years ago, I asked about managed retreat, which was, of course, part of the regional conversation a few years ago, but hadn't been mentioned locally for some time. Of course, the regional council have taken some work with the surf club in Paekakariki, and that's a real manifestation of possibly where we will be going in the future. But do you think that we, as a community on the Kapiti Coast, emphasising the coast, have really got to get a head around the implications of what's ahead of us?
Yes. And I think, obviously we're on the coast, so the implications will be potentially greater because of the nature of where the Kapiti Coast is. But that's not to say that, inland communities don't have the same responsibility to mitigate the effects of climate change as well. So I think a big focus of for me in the next 3 years will be looking at the ways that we can mitigate and adapt to climate change. So first off, beginning with how we actually reduce our emissions in Kapiti and how the council can reduce their own emissions as an organisation, but then how we can protect our community so that it is resilient, instead of just kind of being an ambulance at the bottom of the cliff to have to spend so much money when these effects are hitting us and we haven't actually built the resilient community that we need to be able to cope with those effects.
I must say I was surprised and delighted when the council declared a climate emergency last year and also made some what I think were pretty significant commitments. I'm not sure if they realised the implications of those commitments, and I imagine you'll be there to hold their feet to the fire to make sure that they are carried out.
I 100% will, and I'm proud to say that I was part of the group that presented to KCDC to demand that they declare a climate emergency, and I also spent hours collecting signatures for Low Carbon Kapiti's petition to urge KCDC to be carbon neutral by 2025. So, yeah, I have put, already supported Low Carbon Kapiti in their work in doing that, and now that I'm there, I'll hopefully be able to support Low Carbon Kapiti to be heard at the table, and so that their demands are, they don't have to collect thousands of signatures to make their voice heard. When climate change is an issue which so many young people are, quite scared about, and we're concerned that our leaders will just continue to sit back and let things kind of slip out of our control.
You're obviously much better at making submissions to the council than I am. I've made many council submissions, and I really don't think they've made any difference whatsoever. So congratulations on that. Okay, well, perhaps we can have a chat sometime. You can school me up.
Of course.
Sophie, the other thing about this is that there's so much work involved in being a councillor. I picked up the agenda for the meeting just before the election. It was 589 pages long. The piece that I was looking for was at page 437. I've talked to councillors who say they have at least 20 hours reading per week. And then, of course, there's the meeting times. There's a lot of work here. Much of it sounds extraordinarily boring. Why have you let yourself in for this?
I think, knowing that climate change is such an important issue and that there are so many young people and groups within our community that aren't being represented to their fullest is one of the reasons why I decided to run. But just on what you were talking about how obviously the workload is huge, and I acknowledge that, and I'm also, working hard at the moment to kind of form some support groups for myself, and I know other young people across the country are doing that as well, and my campaign team that helped me out throughout the campaign in order to get me elected, or to get us elected almost, they are going to stick around for the next kind of couple of years to support where they can as well, and also just kind of working out who might be quite good as a mentor or a group of mentors as well to support me through the first couple of years while I learn the ropes.
So Sophie Handford is not just a councillor. Sophie Handford is a movement.
Oh, I appreciate that.
That's
hopefully
great stuff.
It can be a movement of more young people running in Kapiti in the future. So, yeah.
Sophie, there's more to being a councillor than climate change. You've got district-wide responsibilities on a wide range of issues. Do you think you could face the charge that you are a one-subject councillor?
I would disagree with that, and I'm certainly justice is a big kind of word that I like to refer back to, because I think there's a lot of injustices which we see, nationwide, but also you can kind of see the effects of those in Kapiti as well. So I definitely have got my flyer stuck onto my wall, which has different things that I would like to focus on under about 6 different categories of transport, of housing, of our seniors, of businesses, young people, the environment. So I think a lot of those kinds of spheres of issues, I guess you could say, all link back to, in a way, they have different parts of them which link back to my concern for our planet and my concern that people aren't being represented in our decision making. So I would challenge that, and I would encourage anyone who does think that to be in touch, and I can be sure to work through any issues that they have to ensure that their voice is represented. But yeah, that's
wonderful. Sophie, I have an interest in housing. I'm chair of the Housing Task Force, so you and I are going to have a meeting at some stage in the near future. But it's been lovely talking to you on air. I realise you have a meeting coming up in a few minutes. There's a lot more meetings to come. Thank you very much for signing up. It's been a delight talking to you.
Thank you.
There we are.
Talk again soon, eh?
I look forward to it. Thank you, Sophie. Bye-bye. There we are, Sophie Handford.
106.3 Beach FM.